a lot of people may think that potato is just a simple ingredient, right? Like in the pet food, but actually it offers a lot of values in pet foods. So from a nutrition standpoint, potatoes are just a really excellent source for digestible carbohydrates. They're high in starch, of course, and naturally grain-free. So they're great for pets with sensitivities for grains. They also contain some kind of like micronutrients like potassiums and vitamin C's.
Welcome to the Pet Food Science Podcast, brought to you by Wageningen, where we will take a deep dive into the science, trends, and innovations shaping the way that we feed our pets. Whether you're a pet owner, an industry professional, or simply interested in learning more about what goes into your pet's diet, this space is for you. I'm your host, Dr. Kate Shoveler. I'm a professor of companion animal nutrition at the University of Guelph, and I have a background in comparative animal nutrition and a passion for understanding how evidence-based approaches can improve the health and well-being of our pets. Get ready to expand your knowledge and stay ahead with today's episode. On today's podcast, we have Ching-Yen Lin, and she is a technical services manager at Wilbur-Ellis and started about 1 year ago. But I'd like to know more about your journey, Ching-Yen, and I was hoping that you would not mind describing your journey up to this point at Wilbur-Ellis.
Yes. So first, I'm really excited to be here on this podcast, or I should say podcast, because we're going to talk about potatoes today. So my name is, Ching-Yen. As Dr. Shoveler said, I'm currently a technical service manager with Wilbur-Ellis. And my background is in companion animal nutrition, and my path to pet food industries can sound similar to a lot of people in pet food industry. Because I grew up in countryside, and our family used to own poultry farms, and I was surrounded by a lot of animals, chickens, ducks, and dogs. So I've always loved animals, and even dream about becoming a zookeeper when I grew up. So that actually led me to study animal science in college. And during my undergrad years, I even had the chance to do research projects on giant pandas to, play their poops and study how they digest bamboos or bamboo leaves. And that's like a really incredible experience for me, and actually really deepened my interest in animal nutrition science. So I continue my educations and pursue my master's degree in animal science from Wageningen University at the Netherlands. And then after that, just want to get more nutrition knowledge. So I went to University of Illinois and get my Ph.D. in companion animal nutrition. And after completing my Ph.D., I worked as a companion animal nutritionist for several years. I formulated diets and support product development, and also conducted research to understand some ingredient functionalities in pet foods. So now with my current role, I still involved very much in bringing science-based nutrition to real-world pet food industry solutions. And I also support technical sales by translating science into strategies to help customers solve formulation challenges, and also identify the right ingredient solutions to meet their goals.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ching-Yen. That really helps dimensionalize your path and why you're perfect to talk to us today about potatoes. Potatoes are not just a human ingredient. We use potatoes in dog and cat food as well. So I'm really looking forward to the information that you're bringing forward about potatoes. And it's probably very appropriate for you to have studied at Wageningen as well. Did you really over-index on French fries while you were there?
Yes, but with mayonnaise, not with the ketchup. That's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Although when I was over there for sabbatical, I think they've started to really they now give you also a combination offering of ketchup and mayonnaise. But I have to admit that the Netherlands ruined me for truffle mayonnaise with French fries, and I also freely admit that their French fries are significantly better than our French fries, in my not so humble opinion, in terms of taste, of course, in terms
Yes,
of
I agree
taste.
with that. Totally.
Yeah, so this is a very obvious path for you. So let's get into the potatoes. Why don't we start, because there are different varietals of potatoes? Can you give the audience an idea about the definition of potato and potato ingredients that are allowed in the pet food industry?
So there are, yeah, like you said, several kinds of potatoes. One would be the whole ground potatoes. So it's like processed with the whole potatoes. And the other will be potato starch that will be like extract from the potato itself, just the starch portions. And also we have potato proteins, the protein fractions coming out of the potatoes. And yeah, that's pretty much what we have like for potatoes industry right now.
Just so everybody kind of understands as well, are the potato ingredients that the pet food industry is using, so the whole ground and dried potato versus the starch versus the protein, are these all raw ingredients, or do they undergo cooking at any point before their inclusion in the pet food industry?
I think that depends on the raw materials. So some of the products they probably come from, like our products, they come from the human food industry. So it's been cooked before and then grounded together and make the final potato products. Some may not be cooked, so it will be important to cook it well before feeding to the animals. And we'll talk about that maybe later in this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody stay tuned. We're going to come back to the importance of cooking to address anti-nutritional factors in potatoes, just very similar to the reason why you would cook pulse ingredients as an example. So a lot of plant ingredients have anti-nutritional factors, and we use heat and pressure to eliminate those. All right. So we now know we have three different protein sources that are readily used in dog and cat foods. Why do companies include potato in their pet food formulations? Specifically, what benefit maybe to the food science aspects of the pet food, but then also the physiological potential benefits of adding potato as well, which is a really big question, Ching-Yen. So you're welcome to parse that out.
Yes. So, yeah, my answer is going to be long for this one because, like you said, there's a lot of benefits using potatoes. And, a lot of people may think that potato is just a simple ingredient, right? Like in the pet food. But actually, it offers a lot of values in pet foods. So, from a nutrition standpoint, potatoes are just a really excellent source for digestible carbohydrates. They're high in starch, of course, and naturally grain-free. So they're great for pets with sensitivities for grains. And they also contain some kind of like micronutrients like potassiums and vitamin C's. But actually, in pet food, potatoes are often used for the energy source rather than the contributions for micronutrients. But with the starch used as an energy source in the pet food, it can help to spare protein. You're the protein expert here. So when there's enough digestible carbohydrates in the diets, the animals can use those energy instead of breaking down the protein, and that means that the protein can be used for support growth or for tissue repairs, or like even overall health, right? And from a functional standpoint, the potatoes can be a really good, I call it super glue in the pet food diets because it helps bind ingredients together, especially for treats and kibbles. That these products really needs these functional ingredients to bind everything together and maintain the texture and the product shape. So And this also is true for wet diets. Like potato can serve as a binder in the wet diet and help to bind all the products together again.
For the binding part, this is due to the starch component, starch and fiber component. So is potato more enriched in a soluble fiber than insoluble fiber? I certainly don't know this actually. And is that why it is a really good binder?
I think it's because of the viscosity of the potato starch and also the water holding capacity. So it can really bind things together.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Okay. Sorry. Continue on with your benefits of potato.
Yes, it's a very long answer, but another benefits of the potato is that it's really easy to cook, and we mentioned about like cooking, like the cooking is important for potatoes. So their starch can gelatinise really easily, so which can really help with the digestibilities in the pet diet and also bring some efficiency to the processing. So that's actually, yeah, the overview of the benefits of potatoes in pet food.
Oh, fantastic. I can definitely further corroborate your comments about potato proteins. When we've looked at potato protein concentrate, it's actually a very high quality plant protein in contrast to the other plant proteins. And so it's really no surprise when you look at the value of potato in some human diets, how that can really support the consumption of a whole series of essential nutrients. So I'll definitely corroborate that about potatoes and their protein quality. So we now know of the benefits in terms of the physical and functional properties being used as a binder, and particularly we talked about the good protein quality and the fact that the protein concentrate can really help support different pet diets. Potato in general, because you said that it has a highly viscous starch, does that also mean that there's physiological benefits in terms of glucose handling in dogs and cats? So can it help to reduce the glycemic index?
Yes, there's actually not a lot of research done in that area. I saw one paper compare 5 different carbohydrate sources in cats to see how they respond to different starch in terms of glycemic index. And the results is actually not significant among the 5 starch. Oh, I should talk about what those 5 starch are. There are potato, flowers, sweet potatoes, cassava, rice, and wheat. And cassava has actually the best glycemic index in that from that study, but there's actually no significant differences among all treatments. It's just numerical differences.
Yeah, there's probably a very large opportunity for some research here, because I know that on the human side of things, there's quite a bit of work looking at different forms of potato, and it's just really interesting how, for example, the temperature of the potatoes may alter the glycemic index of them. So if you're looking at,
Right.
You've boiled a potato and then you go to eat it. Well, if you put those boiled potatoes in a cold potato salad and they're exactly the same, that they have a lower glycemic index after they're cooled, likely to the generation, I think, of some resistant starch.
Yep.
So I think that there's a real opportunity here to explore the potential further benefits of potato, maybe processed differently as well. It might be really interesting. Well, maybe one thing that I wouldn't mind you separating out for here, because I think a lot of people think about replacing potatoes with sweet potatoes. So I was hoping that you could kind of compare these two ingredients a little bit for the listeners as well.
Yes, I think that's like, one of the biggest like misconceptions that we heard about, like it's that potatoes are just fillers. They don't like bring any values in pet food. And like you said, like sweet potato, people talk about sweet potatoes and potatoes. And with the current, humanization trends, people might prefer sweet potatoes than potatoes because they think potatoes are healthier. And that's because, like, potatoes, sweet potato has that orange colors that brings more beta carotenes or brings more fibers. But that doesn't mean that white potatoes are bad. I think they're as nutritious and effective in pet food compared to sweet potatoes. So, like I mentioned, sweet potatoes might have more vitamin A's or fibers compared to our white potatoes. But white potatoes are actually really high, high in digestible starch, and they can be cooked easily. They also work better for many processing applications compared to sweet potatoes. So I think really sweet potatoes and white potatoes have their different strengths, and it's not about one being better than the other, but it's more about like choosing the right tools for the formulations to have a balanced and effective diet.
Yeah, it's a very hard concept, especially when we've kind of taught consumers, and we can continue to reinforce looking at the label and making ingredient quality judgments, which is not scientifically correct, at least. But yes, potatoes and sweet potatoes are fundamentally two totally different ingredients used for different functional purposes in the manufacturing of food, but then used for used differently in diets. Whether that be for dog or cat, whether that be for dogs and cats at maintenance, or potentially weight loss, or in high energy animals too. It's all about meeting nutrient targets, and then using the ingredients that correspond with the philosophy of your pet owners to meet those nutrient targets with different ingredients. So, I guess what I'm trying to holistically say is, if you're thinking that sweet potato is a great replacement for potato, this is not correct, because it's not a same ingredient replacement, despite sharing a name.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. So yes, nutrients. Animals require nutrients, not ingredients. So when we think about potatoes in particular, where do you tend to see companies using whole potato flour, potato starch, and potato protein in their formulations?
So potato proteins specifically would be used in a lot of like the diet that needs like low ash, because it's a great protein sources, and it does not come with a lot of ash like chicken meals or other animal proteins. So I would think that would be a really good fit for that applications. And potato flours or potato whole ground potatoes can be used in a lot of limited ingredient diets, because animal dogs tend to be less sensitive to potatoes, uh, in that sense.
I didn't know that. So it's less allergenic?
Yes, so a lot of like limited ingredients, pet food diets actually use potatoes, because like potato starch, because there's like less protein that can actually trigger allergic to the animals.
Interesting. And any other, so the low ash as well, that provides a really great opportunity for cat food formulations that are trying to achieve, for example, a lower magnesium content in their diet, right? And any other applications?
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, that potatoes are really good binder, super glue. So, like in kibbles, in wet diets, that they brings a lot of like excellent binding properties. So, a lot of like pet food use that just for that binding purpose. And their carbohydrate is easy to cook and also easy to like make the structures of the kibble puff better. So it cook and then it puff and then make a better kibble structures, if you will.
How does the inclusion of potato starch differ from for example, a grain starch such as cornstarch or pea starch?
I don't know that answer either. Like, I think that all depends on the formulations that the diets want to target. So it depends on different metrics of the formula. So it's yeah,
So
it's the question to the formulator.
right, and then probably the process engineer to understand what the kibble or the wet food is looking like and how it might be perceived by the customer. Okay, well, really interesting. So you've talked a lot about cook. And this really brings me to, I think we really need to talk about the fact that potatoes do include glycoalkaloids, which are considered anti-nutritional factors. So if you wouldn't mind talking about the presence of those anti-nutritional factors, how you might address that, and then the overall safety and quality control in potato ingredients and in their use in the pet food industry.
Yes, like you said, that glycoalkaloids can be a concern in potatoes. So let me, go step a little, take a step back to just talk about what that glycoalkaloid are. So there are compounds that found in potato skins, and they actually serve as a nature defense mechanisms against pests. But higher the levels of glycoalkaloids can be toxic to dogs and cats. So that's the reason why these compounds can be a concern in these products. But the good news is that potatoes used in pet food industry usually have low level of glycoalkaloids, especially when the skins are removed during process. So like potato flours or potato proteins should be like in the safe range. But one product we should probably keep an eye on is the whole ground potatoes, because during the process, it's like the whole potatoes are ground together, including the skins. So it will, for this certain ingredients, it will be important to do some glycoalkaloid testing in the raw materials just to make sure that the raw material is safe for the pet food applications. But actually, like with like low inclusion of the glycoalkaloids in potatoes, heat treatments can be actually another layer of safety guards for this concerns, because study have shown that glycoalkaloids can be destroyed through the heat processing. So this can actually bring some safety to the potato raw materials used in the pet food. And a lot of pet food use heat processing, in to make the pet food like kibbles, wet diet. So the concerns is pretty low after processing.
Yeah, I agree. The work, we haven't done work with potatoes, but definitely our work and other people's work looking at different legumes is, even if used raw in a pet food formulation that's undergoing extrusion, that those anti-nutritional factors will be eliminated after the whole diet extrusion process is fairly consistent. So there are a lot of really good reasons to cook diets in general. So, and this would be one of them.
ICC Animal Nutrition, a Brazilian company with 30 years of history and present in more than 70 different countries, providing natural, sustainable, and technological solutions for animal nutrition, health, and well-being in a safe and scientific way, adding value in food production and helping to feed the world.
So, Ching-Yen, when we put all of this together, and we look at the fact that there is this idea that potatoes does not offer anything, can you summarize maybe for the audience the benefits of using potato ingredients for both your process and address that what nutrients they tend to bring into pet foods?
Yes, of course. So potatoes are like great starch to start with. And then like Dr. Chevrolet said, that potato protein is a really good protein sources for pets. And it also like sprinkles some vitamin C's and potassium in the potatoes. And from the processing standpoints, they are really good binders to bind ingredients together, especially for meat first ingredients, where low carbohydrates are used in that type of diets. And it works really well in moist trees because potatoes had high water holding capacity that can hold moistures, and so it will bring desirable texture to semi-moist treats. And not to mention that it can be a binder or a thickeners in wet diets to make the perfect texture of the diets.
Great. Well, this continues me being a fan of the potato. So I thank you for sharing your information today on potatoes, but I thought that we would end the podcast with just a few questions.
Before we go into that, can I throw a question back to you?
Oh, the unique approach. Sure. Go ahead.
So, like with this, after we talk about potato, what's your take on, the way that potato are perceived in pet food right now? And do you think they get enough credits or they are still underrated?
Great question. I think maybe I would start with the fact that I'm ingredient agnostic, which means I formulate to complete diets. I'm not concerned about the superiority of one ingredient or over the other. There's a lot of different uses. I agree with you. I think that the potato is underutilized in the pet food industry. Indeed, the vast majority of kind of the starch ingredients that we use are either grains or legumes. So I think that to me, potato has an opportunity in the pet food industry. On a protein perspective, I think it's a really cool ingredient. And I don't know very much about protein. You've explained a lot on a pet food side in terms of processing aids. I would also think about exploring where its inclusion falls in palatability in contrast to using grains or legumes. And I'm not familiar with any of that data, if it even exists. So I think you have an opportunity with potato. And to clarify some of those things, there are so many things we have to work on in the pet food industry. But I would agree that potato is a small consideration in contrast to the other big starch suppliers out there, like the grains and the legumes.
Definitely agree with you that we should probably put more efforts to study more potatoes. I'm here to call for more research to work more on potatoes.
Well, maybe this is a call out to all the potato growers globally that it's an untapped industry, and there's a much bigger potential than they've considered before. So who knows? I'm all fan for. I think we not only need more research. I also think we need more researchers that are in academia. I see the benefit. I was an industrial scientist, but I also see the benefit of academic scientists as well. And I think that we need those as well.
It's time for our famous three.
So with that, let me transition you to a couple of other questions that are not related to potatoes. So the first is that you're a technical sales manager. If you had one book that you would rely on and you depend on it being right there on your desk, what is your one key resource that you would recommend to somebody in a role like yours?
This might sound cliche, but I would recommend AFGO because a lot of time, when you have ingredient questions, you go back to AFGOs and then find the definitions and then find what can be a replacement for customers' needs. So AFGO is my go-to.
Okay, I like it. Number two, dog or cat?
Definitely dog, even though I have both dogs and cats, but I'm totally a dog person. I love dog a lot, and I'm planning to have a second dog in the future.
Okay. And then last but not least, if you were to give advice to the young people in the industry about how to be successful in a professional atmosphere and set yourself apart, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say to embrace a learning mindset. That would be important because right now, like pet food industry, like move really fast. You need to like keep learning to keep your pace with other people. So keep learning is important. Like have your curiosity, like why people do things like that, why they put this ingredient into this diet, and why they formulate like this, and why the customers or the pet parents like this kind of diets. Like just ask questions and keep the curiosity. And the other thing is that maybe the networking or the relationship building is important because pet food industry is quite small. And I think the way to survive here or to, be better is to collaborate with others. So those are my two pieces of advice.
I love it. We in our lab, we often and I tell students too, teamwork makes the dream work, and 50% of success is showing up for your team.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, with that, we conclude another episode of the Pet Food Science Podcast, presented by Wageningen. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review because your feedback is invaluable. Until next time, this is Kate Shoveler, and I'm signing off from the Pet Food Science Podcast.